Hey gamers, today we're going to look at subgrids, how to abuse subgrids, what they are, how to use them properly, how to use them improperly, and just ways to spice up your builds. I'd say the main benefit to subgrids is you break away from the cardinality of this game. If you build a ship, you only have six axes to work with as far as components. They don't make any diagonal thrusters, well they do in mods, but here they don't make any in vanilla. You can use a hinge. At its simplest, you can just use it to put an extra thruster on there and have it, cardinally face out at a diagonal, which can help in many cases. For example, it can be used for a setup like this, where if you don't necessarily want to have rear-facing thrusters on, say, a triangle, you can set them up on event controllers and do some other fancy garbage. And this is always going to make your ships a little less reliable, so I don't recommend doing this if you're not comfortable putting them on a combat ship or what have you. But in this case, it's very reliable. We have inertia tensors on for these ones. And overall, given the type of fighter it is, I'm pretty happy with the results. We also have some unnecessary hinges forming chains. So here, we have a very simple hinge setup. But you can use these along with pistons to create something like this. Now, these green ships do, they're a testament against God. They truly are, the way they do their landers. I believe number 9 is it? Yep. Folds in, everything hinges, and Clang comes a little bit closer to devouring my world. Except this one's actually a bit simpler and a little more reliable. But that's probably the easiest use for subgrids, because all you're doing is a little bit of math to slap some on there. This one's a little bit more, since it's a pretty big ship. But as you can see, it's fairly easy to read. All we're doing is activating pistons and hinges and such. Just like the church fighter, I'm using this to offset my rotors in the simplest way possible. These are completely decorative, they don't serve any function. And I'm sure if you use the aerodynamics mod with it, this thing would careen into the ground. It's not really designed for the aerodynamics mod. This sort of lightning bolt design is my favorite way to use decorative subgrid. It's probably my favorite example on a large grid. We're just tilting it ever so slightly to break away from that cardinal shape and allowing us to get a bit of a more aero feel. And then of course we have characteristic of the racing needle. We have the spinny thing. And we're just going to cut into here, just check out the guts. And all we're doing is there's an advanced rotor on each side of this. Getting them paired up is a pain in the butt. But yeah, it involves a little bit of tomfoolery. With 2 in the middle. And then we just attach some blast doors. Since they don't take up a full block, you can also use conveyors. Beam blocks and all sorts of things to get this effect. But I find that blast doors look the nicest and are the strongest. In most cases. And then these two are considered one grid, holding the 2 grids together with the good old double rail chick. So a single rocket right here will split this entire ship in half, so do not do this for your frickin' warship. It will always end badly for you. Because the second anybody with any knowledge of the game sees this spinning rotor, they know there's a double rail in here, they line up with a fighter, bam, and your whole ship comes apart. Then we move to a little more advanced subgrid tomfoolery. Back here, as you could notice, this is symmetrical 3 ways, not 4 ways. And how we're achieving this is the same way I achieved, it's using a bit different in there since I only need 3, but it's using the same technology as the Decorative splitter. All we're doing is stacking 3 rotors on top of each other at 120 degrees, branching off. You don't need these you can make this a lot smaller. This will fit in a 3x3 block area. But if you're just fueling hydrogen, then you can cut it all the way to here. This can spin as well. And this is never really designed to be used with all the ports. I just found myself building these triple stacked rotors quite a bit. It's fairly simple comparatively, not nearly as messy in here, and I am actually using large conveyors for this. But we are combining 3 grids together and using very lucky block placement and double lights to create the illusion of a single body. It sort of breaks apart when you get closer, but I think it's as good as it's going to get. And then you have the most unholy, the 2-to-1-to-2 converter. This thing right here is actually 2 grids that work as a single ship. So, as I mentioned in my last video, I like making the keel for my boat designs. And this is a very naval ship. It's the icebreaker. And in order to achieve that, you need 2 wide symmetry. But 2 block symmetry isn't good for a couple things. It's bad for centrally located things, and especially, in my case, it bugs me with the cockpit because I like having my cockpit in the middle. Just feels right. I'm not into building things like the Millennium Falcon where it's on one side. It makes me feel gross. So how we're achieving this effect is jammed in here. We actually have a piston. And this piston is extended at 1.15. I don't know if that's the correct amount, but it's the one that works. You have to jiggle it back and forth to really get everything to fit seamlessly together. And this thing was a horrendous pain to build. But you can achieve some very fun effects, because when you kind of glance at this thing, you don't notice the fact that it's breaking the rules of the game. But then when you get up close, you're like, wait a minute, this isn't how this would work. And usually there'd be more of a gap here. There'd be an extra half slab right here in order to make this work. But using that 2-to-1-to-2 converter, also known as a freaking piston, jammed in there, you can achieve effects like that. In my opinion, the subgrid is one of the most powerful things in this game, to really bend it to your will. Oh god, the edge of the world. When I first got into this game, subgrids were pretty scary, because what the hell is all this? I just want to make it work. But once I became comfortable with using subgrids to break up my designs, it's kind of hard not to use it, because sometimes I really want that diagonal thruster. I've done a tutorial on this before, but you can also use subgrids to make VTOL. So this is rather silly. And there's a better tutorial for that, hopefully down in the description if I remember to put it down there. Another annoying thing I see people have to deal with a lot is, why is the hitbox on this so big? Like, good god. This is impossible. I just want to put little things next to it, kind of protect the base a little bit. I don't know if they do it for balance reasons or what, but one very simple way around it is just to put a rotor under it. It's not perfect, but we can now place blocks within that stupid 3x3. But if you have a small ship with a lot of parts and you really need to get a Gatling on there, shove an advanced rotor under there and it solves your problems. I manually attached these with a tugboat, 1 by 1. The entire build took, what, maybe 5 minutes? Each rotor on the outside took me, I think a total of 20 minutes. And so something you might want is this auto rotor machine. It's not useful for everything, because there's some tight spaces that it just doesn't work for. But all you do is approach, hit 7, move on, do some littering, and then move on to the next one. But machines like this can help automate the process, and hopefully I'll remember to put this in the description too. It's very simple to use. If you find yourself attaching rotors to small heads a lot, or whatever. It only works for the advanced rotor, because I'm too lazy to set up the normal rotor. Subgrids have to be one of the most powerful things in this game. It's a shame that they are so off-putting to new players. I mean, look at this guy. He doesn't even... Oh. He looked at me for once? I'm very off-put by this. I've been used to this thing for some reason pointing in the opposite direction, but it just looked right at me. I'm probably going to die a horrible death soon. You guys have a wonderful day.